Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Back to 12 podcast. I am RC Maxfield here on a Wednesday after another victory for Texas Tech men's basketball. This team is officially the hottest team in the Big 12, people, and they are no longer a sleeper. We will talk about that. We will also look at the latest metrics for Texas Tech, as well as take a look back at last night, where Texas Tech, did they play their best game of the season? No, they did not. But did they beat a very good Baylor team, albeit without maybe their best player? Yes, they did. But also Texas Tech lost JT Toppin for a lot of this game as well. So we'll recap that one. We'll also look at KenPom. We'll look at the net. We'll look at Bart Torvik. We'll look at the latest Big 12 standings. We'll also discuss how Texas Tech is absolutely soaring, and I mean soaring, up bracketology rankings. There were a couple bracketologists that not even just 2 weeks ago had Texas Tech as like a 10 seed. That's no longer the case. Texas Tech is firmly, obviously, in March Madness. It's more so how high can they potentially get with a huge matchup for not only the Big 12 regular season title, but seeding in the tournament itself. March Madness, right? With Arizona set for, I believe now that game is set for around 9:30 on Saturday night. You better get your caffeine ready, Red Raider Nation, before the Super Bowl on Sunday. Before we get into that, let me know, what seed will Texas Tech men's basketball be in the NCAA tournament? I get it. We're still about a month away from Selection Sunday, but this team, I don't even think it's peaking right now. I think that this team is still figuring some things out, and there is a lot of room for improvement, specifically on the offensive end, where they need to get better at really shrinking these lulls of offense where they just stop scoring for 4 to 5 minutes. But also, I think on the defensive end, they're becoming a lot better, but there's still room for improvement. Let me know, though, where you have Texas Tech seated. Currently, as of today, I get it, it's February 5th. Let me know in the comments, and we'll get some shout-outs going as well. Let's see who we got out here today, shall we? We've got Reese. We are so back. We absolutely are back, Reese. Never a doubt. If you listen to this podcast, I would have told you from the jump this offseason when Texas Tech got JT Toppin, they are talented and should be expected to make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Now, as we all know, it is difficult to make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, but they are definitely talented to do so. Now it feels like, okay, Sweet 16 almost feels like a minimum. Is this team talented enough to play in the Alamo City and potentially snippy, snip, snip, if you know what I mean, those nets? Talk about that. We'll talk about that at this point. We got Reese. We've got Kaysen. We've got Keith. We've got Devontae. We've got Colts. We've got Renee. Who else we got in here? Old Texas Tech man and Jerry as well. I appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in. If you haven't already, which I know a lot of y'all have, be sure to like the video. Hit that subscribe button for 100% free Texas Tech content all year round. We're going to have I decided today, we will be doing a live selection stream on Selection Sunday. We will be breaking it down instantaneously when we find out where Texas Tech will be going to play in March Madness. So if you want instant reaction to that, as well as everything in between, 100% free, all you got to do is like the video and hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way to let us know. All right. Let's get to last night, shall we? About last night, as Texas Tech men's basketball tweets out every time that there's a win. The Red Raiders won 73-59. I mean, the Texas Tech defense is now a strength, people. This team just continues to evolve. Are they perfect? By no means of the imagination, they're not, but they have a lot of positives on this roster. And you look at it, Texas Tech defensively just continues to get better. And they held Baylor without a field goal for the final 4 minutes and 26 seconds, as you can see on your screen right there. Baylor shot only 34% from the field, 28% from three. Only 5 made three-pointers for Scott Drew's bunch last night out in the 806, and there was a pretty sizable free throw discrepancy in this one. And really the free throw line is what kept Baylor in the game, it felt like. When it came to the boards, we talked about it. If Texas Tech could win the rebounding battle, they'd win. Well, they tied. So even better, right? But the real big thing in this one is Texas Tech absolutely stifled this Baylor offense in terms of any ball movement. The Bears only had 8 assists in this game. 8. Think about that, okay? Elijah Hawkins by himself had 7. Unbelievable type stuff. Let's go ahead and look at just the Texas Tech stats in this one. As you can see, Chance McMillan went in fuego. That heat check moment by Chance McMillan is a top 5 moment in the USA since I have started creating content around Texas Tech men's basketball. That was an insane moment and one where you needed it if you were Texas Tech, right? Because remember, when he went on that heat check, it was a pretty close game. Baylor was going on a run a little bit. He makes one, they go up 8, okay? Baylor goes down and makes a bucket. It's a 6-point game. He goes back and makes another one. It's a 9-point game. Baylor then has a 2-point game, right? In terms of they go down and score a 2-pointer or a field goal, I guess is a better way to say that. Act like you know ball, RC. And then it's a 7-point game. And then he shoots one from Curry range and does a Steph Curry midway through the ball going through the air. He turns around, doesn't even look at it. He knows it's going in to make it a 10-point game. He is no longer one of the most underrated players in America. Chance McMillan is simply put one of the best players in America. End of sentence, okay? He was phenomenal last night. D5, was he efficient? No, but I thought D5 is starting to learn, okay, maybe this dribble back down game that he has, especially the fadeaway, he's got to stop that. He really does. And I think that he knows it, but he was efficient when Texas Tech needed him most in the sense that down the stretch, he made buckets and also went to the free throw line and converted. But I think the thing that was crazy in this game that nobody is talking about in the Texas Tech space, D5 had 7 offensive rebounds last night. 7 offensive rebounds. Think about that. He had half of the Texas Tech offensive rebounds. Okay? That's insane. You look at what Baylor did last night. The next closest in this matchup is Norshad Omir, who is a bona fide star when it comes down to it, and he had 4. Back to the Red Raiders side of things. I mean, again, I wish D5 would be a little bit more efficient, but he was phenomenal on the glass last night, as was JT Toppin before he twisted his ankle. Only played 21 minutes, but in the limited minutes that he did play, he was sensational for Texas Tech and really set the tone early. Kevin Overton, he led this team in rebounding at halftime with 7. He didn't get another one in the second half. And if I hear one more person in my Twitter mentions or the damn comments on these YouTube videos uneducated in terms of ball saying that Federico isn't a good basketball player, I might just block your ass. That is one of the most appalling and just lack of ball knowledge statements I have heard. Fetty is a phenomenal player for Texas Tech and one that Texas Tech desperately needs. And he proved last night, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, why he is so pivotal to Texas Tech's success. Listen, people, Texas Tech and their defense being better, there's a clear correlation there, people. When they allow Fetty to kind of rove that middle and be the lone guy and the lone anchor there on the back end, that's when Texas Tech thrives. It allows the guys on the perimeter to feel like they can be more aggressive, a little bit more handsy in passing lanes, and they have since then done a phenomenal job of increasing their defensive efficiency. Number 26, according to KenPom. We'll look at that in just a second. But overall, I mean, Texas Tech is just on an absolute heater right now. 7 consecutive wins for Texas Tech, all coming within the second toughest conference in America, maybe the toughest conference in terms of the absolute pinnacle of it, right? Because you have 4 teams as it currently stands right now that have a real chance to win, well, the title. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit in terms of the stat I'm referencing. But again, just a phenomenal win for Texas Tech in a game that, as I get back on the screen here, really, I think showed why this Texas Tech team is so damn good. I was having this conversation with some buddies last night that are also Texas Tech graduates, and I asked them, and let me know in the comments if I'm off base here. I think from a sheer talent perspective, this team is the most talented team in Texas Tech program history, okay? That doesn't mean they're the best, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to end up playing in the national title game, but from a talent perspective, from the rotation that they have, I think that this is the most talented rotation Texas Tech men's basketball has ever had. Okay. And the reason being is this: on any given night, who are you going to prioritize if you're the opposing team, right? In terms of trying to stop them on the defensive end. Are you going to prioritize JT Toppin? Okay, good luck. Double him. And, if the ref doesn't call a bullshit call in terms of an F2, he can pass out of double teams. And still, on that play, guess what Texas Tech did down in Houston? They made a three. That's what Texas Tech is best at, okay? When they do that, you prioritize JT Toppin. Okay, that'll leave D5, Chance, Elijah, CA, Kerwin, other guys open. Oh, you're going to prioritize D5? All right, we'll let you have JT Toppin go to work and get to his left every time he possibly can. And when he can't, he'll find shooters available on the outside. Oh, you're going to prioritize Chance McMillan? Fine, we'll body you down low with JT Toppin and D5 and still have other shooters available by the likes of Elijah Hawkins, a career 40% three-point shooter. Christian Anderson, an absolute bona fide diaper dandy. Shout out to Dickie V for that historical reference in college basketball. And oh, by the way, Kerwin Walton's heating up now. Who are you prioritizing, right? And this is on the back of Texas Tech actually getting better and looking like a legitimate top 25 defense in America, okay? Again, this team's not peaking right now, people. They're just getting started. I think there's 3 or 4 things that Grant McCasland is just harping on in practice over and over and over again that's only going to continue this flight in terms of Texas Tech going up in the rankings and being viewed as one of not only, those top teams in the country, one of those top tier teams in the country, right? This game against Arizona, which we will preview on the channel tomorrow in a preview video. Listen, if Texas Tech wins this, I don't know how the hell they're not the favorites to win the Big 12. I don't know at this point. Like, I don't understand it if they win. Now, it's a sizable if, because you got to remember this. You just beat the shit out of Arizona at home by 16 points. You don't think the Wildcats are going to come out with a little bit more oomph behind them, right? And the Wildcats know, too, if they win this game, they're in prime position to win the Big 12 or at least have a really good chance at it. So Texas Tech right now is the hottest team in the Big 12, and they are finally getting some national recognition. I think Matt Norlander over at CBS Sports had a great little article and little interview. There was 3 or 4 quotes from Grant McCasland. I encourage you to go check that out over on his Twitter. Again, that's Matt Norlander at CBS Sports. But then you had Field of 68. Those guys really in on Texas Tech. Here's the thing, and you guys all know this. Some of y'all hopped on the train in terms of just unequivocal belief a little bit later than others. But we all knew coming into this season that this Texas Tech team was extremely talented. Did it have its flaws? Sure. Absolutely. And even I questioned, okay, could they reach their true potential? Now they're at the point now, in my opinion, where they reached the ceiling of the potential I thought they could have. Now, there's 2 or 3 other levels that I did not expect that this team could have. And now, again, they're going to have to stay healthy, and they're going to have to continue to improve. They're not going to be able to settle whatsoever. Grant McCasland's not going to let them settle, people. I mean, you got the right guy for the job. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, this Texas Tech team, every given night, can beat any team in the country because they're explosive and efficient on the offensive end. They're getting better on the defensive end, mainly on the perimeter. And oh, by the way, they're one of the better offensive rebounding teams and rebounding teams in general in the Big 12. And that was something that I thought they would struggle with mightily, but instead it's a strength for this team, right? And that's something that, again, just credit to Grant McCasland and credit to this team. They have been absolutely sensational so far this season. About over the halfway point in Big 12 play. And we'll look at KenPom here in a second and some of the other metrics to see where Texas Tech stands. But right now, I don't know if you could have asked for a better start if you're a part of Red Raider Nation. I mean, again, this 9-2 start for Texas Tech in league play is the best that Texas Tech has ever had in the Big 12 Conference since joining in the late 90s. Okay? The team that went to the national title game did not start 9-2 in Big 12 play. The team that went to the Elite Eight with Keenan Evans. And if Keenan doesn't break his toe, I think wins the national championship. I digress. But that team did not go 9-2 to start league play. This is the best start in Big 12 play in Texas Tech men's basketball history while being a member of the Big 12. This team is really freaking good, people, and they're only going to get better. That's the scary part. That is the scary part. All right, let's get to some shout outs real quick. Y'all have been keeping the chat lively. I appreciate y'all. Again, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for 100% free Texas Tech content all year long, whether it's on the gridiron or on the hardwood. And trust me, we're going to be having a lot of Texas Tech men's basketball content coming your way. If you want to stay in the know on everything Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, portal, hardwood, recruit trail, whatever it is, got you covered right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel. All we ask that you do in return, if you like the content, like the video. That's it. All right, let's see. We got Reese. We're so back. Said that earlier. Absolutely. Kaysen with the yo. San Antonio or bust. Keith, let's not get ahead of ourselves now. There's a lot of good teams in college basketball now. To be fair, Texas Tech is clearly one of them, but there's still some work to do. If I'm going to say that Texas Tech has San Antonio or bust. I do think that Texas Tech is talented enough to make San Antonio, though. Reese says, thanks for giving me an excuse not to do my homework. Now, Reese, you're welcome. You guys, yeah, I know what each and every one of y'all thought. You thought I was going to say, hey, Reese, no, do your homework. Come on. Let's be real here. If you went to college, you know that you procrastinated. If I'm the reason you're procrastinating, now seriously, don't let your mom see this, though. Don't let that happen. Mom, I'm telling him to do his homework, but seriously, Reese, don't do your homework, okay? Don't do your homework. It's the opposite of what I should have said, but it is what it is. All right. We've got Fanta calling this a Final Four team. Yeah, so did Seth Greenberg at half. He said that this has every making of a Final Four team. There's no doubt about it. Not men's basketball, but do you think Tech has an actual chance to sign Chavez from Monterey? I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea. No idea. I know that I saw an article. It's between like LSU, Texas, or Texas Tech and South Carolina or something like that. I don't know. Is that right? I don't know. Maybe I even got the teams wrong there. But hopefully she comes to Tech. That would be a legitimate program-changing type addition. But I haven't paid much attention to it, to be honest with you, Colts. Chance McMillan might start becoming my favorite player. His 3 threes were electric. Yeah, again, one of my favorite moments in the USA in my time of creating content around Texas Tech. That was a sensational moment, and one that I don't think Red Raider Nation is going to forget for a very long time. Renee need to stop settling for threes if they want to go to the Final Four. Why? You shoot 40% from there. I mean, Grant McCaslin said it himself. He wants this team to shoot 25 threes a night. This is your bread and butter. You shoot as a team close to 40% from three. And threes are backbreaking. And with how many open looks you get, take them. Now, again, if you're talking about how Texas Tech has those stagnant offensive plays where they chuck up a three with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, yeah, that's infuriating. I'm right there with you. But I'm not going to let them stop settling for threes. No, don't settle for threes, because settling is completely different. Unless you're strictly talking about those, offensive possessions that just stall out. Yeah, that's frustrating. But overall, this team should jack up as many threes as they can get open looks, and they get a ton of them. Whether it's off the dribble, running baseline, which they've done a lot more. Thank you for listening, Grant. I can tell you watch the podcast. I'm kind of being sarcastic, but I think a couple of y'all do. Anyway, I want them to shoot as many threes as they get good looks. Devontae says 4 or 2 seed. Reese says probably a 2 or 3 seed. Number 1 overall. They aren't getting that number 1 overall seed. I'll tell you that right now. That's Auburn or Duke. Those teams are crazy good. Crazy good. Let's see. 4 or 5 seed. I think that's reasonable. I'm impressed with Federico. I am as well. I think Federico may be the biggest difference maker on this team that nobody talks about. He's phenomenal. Is he the most physical guy? Absolutely not. Is he infuriating sometimes? Absolutely. But overall, he makes the defense for Texas Tech go a lot of ways in terms of that aggressiveness on the perimeter, as I discussed earlier. The defense was getting some love last night. Commentators called them elite. They have been elite. In this 7-game win streak, they have been one of the top 10 defenses in the country. okay, in the entire country. That's not, me making some shit up. No, that's like unequivocal fact in this 7-game win streak. They've been that good. Reese says our versatility is late March, April material. We have about 6 guys that you can call on your best player. I feel bad for whoever has a game plan against us. I agree wholeheartedly. Any chance come back next year? No, Grant, this is his last year of eligibility. But he's getting looks now for the NBA. I can tell you that much. Oh, we got a Baylor fan in the chat. We've got Alan. Congrats, RC. Love your live coverage. RC, congrats to Tech. Houston and Tech will do good for the Big 12. I think, last night, Baylor threw some issues at Texas Tech. We talked about how it got to 5 points and then Chance went on that just run. Again, I think there's, in my opinion, and this doesn't mean that Kansas couldn't beat Texas Tech up at Allen Fieldhouse. But I think right now, as of Wednesday, February 5th, there is clearly 3 top teams in the Big 12. And it is Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, in one particular order, whatever it is. I don't really care. I think it might just be like a 1A, 1B, 1C type situation. I really don't care how you view it. But Texas Tech is definitely in the mix, and they are, as we will see here in a little bit, rising quickly in bracketology. And by the way, I think now is the time you can start slowly looking at bracketology. Don't take it as gospel or anything like that, but slowly looking at it in the sense of, okay, I'm getting a gauge of where my favorite team is, obviously Texas Tech for you guys. And that'll tell me kind of like, okay, I can expect them to be a blank seed to a blank seed. And who could I potentially be playing, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. But I don't take bracketology very, very seriously until we're talking about the conference tournament. That's when you start looking at it in terms of like, oh my gosh, let's, actually go in and, look at all these numbers. That means this team should play this team. This is the seed that we should be. What happens if we win this game in the conference tournament? I digress, but we're going to look at bracketology at a glance today. Grant says Darian can come back though, right? Yeah, he can. Yeah, he technically has 1 year of eligibility left. Yeah, 1 year left. JT has 2, I believe. So we'll see what happens with those guys. Elijah doesn't have any eligibility left. Neither does Kerwin. Fetty, however, does if he wants to use the JUCO rule. Obviously, CA is a freshman. Kevin Overton is a sophomore, so he has 2 years after this as well. Who am I forgetting in the rotation? I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody. Probably am, but is what it is. Most of the guys have at least some eligibility left at this point. Let's see. RC, I know we are 2 more games by this team, almost has the same amount of Big 12 wins as last year. Yeah, this team, I'm not going to lie to you. If this team played last year's team, I think this year's team would be favored by double digits. This team is unreal, man. And I'm not just saying that because they're on a heater right now. Again, if y'all have listened to me for any length of time since the season started, I know a lot of people were down bad after the UCF lost and even the Iowa State one. I thought this team was really good. Again, they've exceeded my expectations by far still so far this year. But, yeah, man, this team I think has a chance to be one of those teams that Red Raider Nation talks about for a very, very long time. All right, let's get into KenPom real quick. As you can see on your screen, the Red Raiders have entered the top 10 of KenPom. And they are the 11th ranked offense according to offensive rating, according to good old KenPom, and 26th nationally in terms of defensive rating. Now, why is this interesting as I pull up this stat? Here we go. 95.5% of national champions since 2001 have had a top 21 KenPom offensive rating pre-tournament. They've also had a 90.9% of national champions since 2001 have had a top 31 KenPom defense pre-tournament. What teams fit this criteria so far? Well, I'm glad you asked, even though you probably didn't. Maybe you did. I don't know. I can't hear you through the computer. The internet's not working like that right now. There are currently 10 teams. 10 teams that currently fit this criteria. Again, top 21 KenPom offensive rating, and then top 31 KenPom defensive rating. Here we go. As of February 5th, these are the teams: Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida, Arizona, Iowa State, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan State, and this little team out in West Texas, aka your Texas Tech Red Raiders. If history tells us anything, as of right now, and obviously these things will fluctuate, they're very fluid. We're still about a month away from Selection Sunday. One of these 10 teams will win the NCAA tournament. That's what history tells us right now. Again, very fluid. These things could change, but one of those teams historically will win the NCAA tournament if history repeats itself. And as we know, history repeats itself quite often in college basketball. Now, let's go look at the net real quick, because there's some interesting stuff over here as well. Texas Tech, oh, wouldn't you know it, the Red Raiders moved up from 8 to 7 with their win over Baylor, getting another quad one win on their resume. Did the Red Raiders. They passed Kansas last night. And Arizona is at 9. So it will be a top 10 matchup in terms of the net out in Tucson late Saturday night Central Time. Tip-off is scheduled for 9:30 on ESPN2, I do believe. Between the Wildcats, the number 20 Wildcats in the AP poll, and the number 13 Texas Tech Red Raiders. It's a big game, people. That is a big, big game between those two squads. But Texas Tech firmly up there in terms of the net. Now, let's go look at Bart Torvik in terms of where Texas Tech ranks. As you can see, where there's just a lot of numbers on your screen right now. We'll break it down for you guys here in just a second. The Red Raiders, according to his metrics, are the 7th best team in the country, the 7th ranked or adjusted offense, and then you've got the 25th best adjusted defense overall in his algorithm. Texas Tech is 0.9528, pretty significant margin behind Florida at 6. When you're talking about how big that is in terms of, I know it's only what, 0.51, excuse me, it's half a percentage in there. So that's pretty big, at least when you're talking that high up in the ratings. Now, we'll go look at the Basketball Power Index and where Texas Tech is ranked in this one real quick. As you can see, Texas Tech jumped up 9 spots after their win against Baylor. That's pretty significant right there. And they continue to move up. Now, what's interesting here is you look at it, and I've heard it's a down year for the Big 12, but you have, 4 teams in the top 9. Same amount of teams as the SEC in the top 10, right? Big 12 is very, very good at the top, and Texas Tech is firmly in the mix as one of the best teams in this conference. There's no doubting that. Now, when you look at the standings for the Big 12, as we shift on over to those, again, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. Best way to let us know that you enjoy the content here on the channel, and best way to keep it free, if we're being honest. All right. You see the standings there. Texas Tech 9-2, just a game behind Arizona, the team that they are set to play this weekend out in Tucson. The winner of that game will move into, pretty good spot. Let's just say that. Either way, it's going to be a really good spot for one of those two teams, with Texas Tech already holding the 1-0 lead in terms of the head-to-head over Arizona after beating the Wildcats a few Saturdays ago by 16, 70-54 to be exact. Now, as I get back on the screen in full here, I think it's interesting from the Texas Tech perspective before we get into bracketology. Texas Tech is no longer a sleeper, people. And I know that I mentioned that a little bit early on, but you see these metrics and where Texas Tech ranks from a ratings perspective, rankings perspective, and those two are not the same, right? But the ones that I look at the most are KenPom and the net, right? I look at them probably 2 or 3 times a day, which my wife probably doesn't like, but it is what it is. Those two metrics are the one that I look at the most, just because historically those are the ones that the committee uses. Now, the net is relatively early in its existence. It's about 5 years old, but it's something that the committee uses, and it was developed for the committee to use. So you can get a pretty good idea of how the committee views the Red Raiders and other teams by the net. Now, it's not going to be like, okay, if Texas Tech is 7th in the net, that means they are the second seed in the NCAA tournament. It's not as clear as day as that. There's still some human element to it, right? But you get a pretty good idea. And then KenPom, from the historic perspective, he just continuously is historically accurate. And some people will say the net is a joke. No, the net is pretty damn good in terms of knowing how the committee views your team. You may not like it, but it is what it is, right? The committee uses it. They have come out and said that it is a main criteria bullet point that they use to slot teams in the NCAA tournament. You don't have to like it, but it's the truth. So if you want to look at the metrics and see how the committee views teams, at least to a large degree, look at the net. Also look at KenPom as well. There's other metrics that I use, obviously Bart Torvik, and then BPI as well. But those are the two that I would say are close to quote unquote gospel when it comes to being accurate in what the committee is going to look at long-term in terms of seeding. So again, KenPom and the net, those are the two that I look at most. And then I try and look at other metrics and rating sites as well, because I don't just want to use those two. Because I think if you just score or put yourself in a box and only look at those two, you could potentially be missing some other data that shows you, oh, maybe that team is a little bit better than we thought. Evan Maya, great example. He has some really good content as well. And Ryan Hammer does a great job with the trapezoid of excellence, or whatever he calls that. Not trying to throw him under the bus. I just literally forgot what it's called, but he does great work over there as well. Okay. Bracketology, anyone? Question mark? I think this could be a fun thing to look at. And in fact, let me go ahead and get this on your screen real quick for you. Boom. There you go. Bracketology. And again, would appreciate it if y'all like the video. It's the best way of showing us that we're doing a good job here at the channel. You enjoy the content. You want more lives? Like the video. It's really that simple, people. Okay. Let's see where we're at here. 4 in the Midwest region on the right side of your screen. Texas Tech would have a matchup against Illinois in the round of 32 if they were to beat Samford, an automatic qualifier from the Southland Conference, question mark. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, please. But I believe they're in the Southland. Trying to put my hoops knowledge to work there, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and I will openly take an L if I am. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Sign me the hell up right now for this region. Sign me the hell up. Like, if this is what we're talking about right now, sign me up, okay? Alabama's good, but you can get in a shootout with Alabama. Texas Tech is good enough offensively to do so, right? If you get to the Sweet 16 and they get there and you can beat Illinois. Illinois is a team where I don't really know what they are. They're a good team. They have a star freshman who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. But outside of that, they're super inconsistent. They're well coached with Brad Underwood, but I think Texas Tech would be favored in that game by probably 3 or 4 points on a neutral site, which is not saying anything bad about Texas Tech. Let's just go that far, right? Marquette, I don't know what they are. Louisville, they're good. Vanderbilt, coin flip. Purdue never performs well in March outside of last year, it feels like. And they had Zach Edey, one of the best bigs in modern college basketball, right? But overall, there's a couple of teams in this bracket that scares me. But at the same time, if this is what Texas Tech was going to get, I think Texas Tech fans should be pretty happy. Like, overall, like, you should beat Samford. You should feel good about beating Illinois. St. Mary's could even beat Alabama. I mean, you got Drake. They're interesting for sure. But overall, this would not be a bad bracket to look at if you're a Texas Tech fan. Now, as we go over to CBS, let's see what good old Jerry Palm has for the Red Raiders. We'll scroll down a little bit. He has Texas Tech as a 5 seed playing the aforementioned Samford Bulldogs, and Yale would be the 13 in this one with Memphis as the 4. This would not be fun, in my opinion, for a few reasons. Let's walk through it. I want no part of playing in the same bracket as UConn. I know UConn has not lived up to the hype that they've had in terms of being the back-to-back national champions. Doesn't mean they're not talented enough to do it. Tennessee, really good team. Jans, the coach down at Mississippi State, they're physical. We know how good Iowa State is. New Mexico, well coached by Rick Pitino's son. Then you've got Texas A&M. Feel pretty good about Texas Tech beating them, as they should have beat them on a neutral site if they had JT Toppin. But this one I don't feel as good about, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. But I'll get back on the screen real quick. I think for me, overall, this Texas Tech team, when it's all said and done, again, they're being projected to be a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think on the trajectory that they're going on right now, and they'll slip up. They're going to lose another game. They're not going to win out in the Big 12, people, okay? They're just not. But even if they win 2, maybe even 3 more games, depending on who it's to, I think Texas Tech ends up as a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're really good. They're going to get better. They can shoot the lights out. And the thing is they don't rely on just one shooter. So let's just say Chance McMillan, God forbid, goes cold one night in the NCAA tournament, right? You've got 3 or 4 other guys that shoot 40% from 3. You feel good about that, right? So there's multiple shooters. You can beat teams in a multitude of ways. You can get downhill off the dribble. You can play the pick and roll game. You can find space. You can play good defense now. As I mentioned earlier, they are a top 10 defense nationally during this 7-game winning streak, which is crazy considering you played Houston and you gave up 81 points in that game. But overall, you're really good, okay? And I think the ceiling for Texas Tech, they're not going to get a 1 seed. They're not going to do that. I think that they could get to a 2 seed if things go right for them. I think they'd have to win the Big 12 regular season title to get there, but I don't think that that's off the table, especially if they beat Arizona on Saturday. They're going to skyrocket, people, if they beat Arizona. I'm talking they're going to go from the number 13 team in the country in the AP poll. And again, the AP poll don't mean much. Look at net, look at KenPom. They're already top 10 there. I'm telling you right now, if Texas Tech beats Arizona in Tucson late Saturday night, probably going into Sunday morning, they're going to be a top 8 team in the country, if not higher. They're going to skyrocket, people, and justifiably so. This team is a top 10 team in the country, in my opinion. Maybe 8, 9, or 10, but they are definitely a top 10 team in the country, and they will continue to only get better because they have some flaws, just like every other elite college basketball team or great college basketball team outside of maybe Auburn and Duke. Those are the clear-cut 2 best teams in the country, with Houston not too far behind. But you already beat Houston on their home floor. If Houston's that good, you're right behind them, right? So, again, I think Texas Tech has a really good chance to be a 2 seed if they win the Big 12. But overall, I think the most likely outcome is Texas Tech is a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, and one that I can promise you this: nobody wants Texas Tech to be whatever seed they are in their bracket, period, end of story. Nobody's going to want that at all. All right, let's get to the comments here. But before we do, again, be sure to like the video. We have about 100 people in here right now. Let me update it. Let me see how many likes we have here on the video right now. Slow internet. Hate to see it. We only have 28 likes. Come on. I think we can at least get to 50 likes here in the next 5 minutes, people. Come on. If you like this content, 100% free, all I'm asking you to do is like the video. It helps the channel in the best way possible. All right, let's see what we've got here. Renee asks, Kentucky still good or what? I think they're good, but they were probably overhyped a little bit. Let's see. Diehard Texas Tech. RC, unrelated, but have you ever thought about doing a collab with Locked On Texas Tech? I haven't. I've done stuff with Locked On Big 12 in the past, but I haven't done anything with Locked On Texas Tech. Those guys do phenomenal work, just like a lot of other Texas Tech content creators. So you're not going to hear me badmouth those guys again. I've always said it. Shout out to Casey Cowan, man. He helped me get my own radio show out in Lubbock, Texas, as a professional, as the first one I had as a non-student. So shout out to him. I always have love for Casey Cowan in that regard, and actually worked for Level for a little bit during my time out in the 806 as well. So not going to hear me say a bad thing about those guys. That's for sure. Let's see here. Will Arizona be last year's BYU? We sweep them, same record, and then Tech gets a lower seed. I think it's possible, but the only reason is because Arizona did have a couple, or they had a harder non-con, but also at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen, Renee, even if they win, just for the sheer standpoint of Texas Tech and their resume as a whole, yeah, they're really good. They're really good. Texas Tech is. There's no doubting that. Let's see. Reese says, keep me away from Tennessee, Mississippi State, New Mexico, Iowa State, UConn, and San Diego State, please. Brutal region. Yeah, I hated that region. That was the one that, like, I was just like, yeah, no, please. Like, let's just, is there a way for us to, like, go somewhere else? Like, Seattle's a cool place. I mean, I don't know if y'all visited before. I like seafood, but doesn't mean I want to go up there just to be in a harder region, right? Let's see. Kevin says, shit, I'm 40 years old and I still procrastinate. Same, man. Same. Yeah. No, but I procrastinate all the time, man. All the time. My wife hates it, but at least I'm honest with her about it. It's definitely one of my flaws and something I work on for sure. Diehard Texas Tech. I mean, RC, you never know how unlikely after Arizona we have a relatively easy schedule. I doubt it too. I totally misread your comment there, but yeah, I get your point. Yes, Texas Tech's schedule. And in fact, we can go ahead and pull that up for you guys here in just a second. In terms of their schedule, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's definitely manageable, if that makes sense, after this Arizona game for a few games. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the screen right now for you guys. And we'll go to this one. There you go. As you can see, you play at Arizona at 9:30 tip. They did confirm that and move that. Fuck. I'm going to have to drink like 3 Red Bulls to stay up. Anyway, then you play Arizona State. You're going to be a double-digit favorite against the Sun Devils at home. You're probably going to be a double-digit favorite on the road against Oklahoma State. You're probably going to be a 7-8 point favorite at TCU. And then DeVries, his son, is out for the year with a shoulder injury. They still have Small, who's a really good guard, but you're probably going to be close to a double-digit favorite against West Virginia at home. So you have 4 games there where at worst, and I mean at worst, you should go 3-1. You're better than every one of those teams. There's no doubting that. But overall, again, great stuff from Texas Tech, right? As we're going to wrap it up here. Real quick, though, I'll answer this question. Weren't you on tortillas and takes, or am I misremembering? I was. I try and go on as many Texas Tech podcasts that ask me. It's always fun. I love the community that Texas Tech has in terms of all the podcasts and everything. But again, Red Raider Nation, enjoy this. Please, please, please enjoy this team. This team is really good, people, and they're only going to get better. It's really, really exciting times in Texas Tech men's basketball and that sphere. So if you want to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, 100% free, and join the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube, over 11,500, almost double any other Texas Tech YouTube channel, okay? Not affiliated with the university. This is the place for you. I'm active in the chat at least twice a week for you guys going live. We got game previews, latest news and rumors, and everything in between. So again, if you want to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans for 100% free content all year long surrounding your Red Raiders on the gridiron or on the hardwood, follow these 3 simple steps. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the Back to 12 squad today. And as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.